All for one and one for all, that very obvious catchphrase.
Hello, this is KRBrickBot, and I'll be taking a look at a collective trio of Carbots, Knight, Pawn, and Rook. So Knight is the only original box I have, and in a completely kid-demolished and discounted state. Pawn here shelf-worn for a while until he didn't. And Rook was the first to go because police. So you can assume the similar design of all three from this one box. It is a rather small box. The other two members and the unique trio logo. We came, we saw, we conquered. A little QR code in the early days. One-touch transformation. Write-ups for all three characters. So this is 2015. The trio has never been reissued. For whatever reason, I guess because the kids didn't like the auto-transforming, very limited articulated cars. Okay, so I'll get this thing open. Easier to do with that much out of the way. And it was one of the early ones that had cardboard paper twisty ties instead of plastic. Knight here is the most realistic car that is not a Hyundai, being pretty obviously based on the Lamborghini Veneno. You know, the car that every non-Transformers toy company loves ripping off. Of course, it's not a actual scale model of a Lamborghini, just a very close replica of one. The V-shaped inner grille, it's very similar in that regard, and the most obvious thing is that the headlights have been changed. Instead of very aggressive looking, really swept back ones, they're just simply shorter green ones. Also another distinction, like the back doesn't, they look like they're at windows instead of those ridges. Still has a spoiler, and yeah, the back has these smaller rear lights because it has to have space for the feet. I'm sure the windows have been slightly tweaked, and those are some very big rear view mirrors. Also, it looks like they also modified it by having smaller front wheels. As a one-step transformer, just grab the hood and pull it apart. And everything spring loads into place, except the feet. So his weapon storage consists of a simple little white revolver right on his chest, in that little pentagonal hole. Yeah, not a very good look for the robot mode. I guess you could imagine this is some sort of very unusual holster. But anyway, I think that one point of connection is just asking for this thing to be lost forever. Cast in white, this looks like a simple model kit part, I guess. But yeah, it's a simple, very simple pistol with a trigger or a handguard and a handle on a handle. Yeah, so this looks like the actual gun handle, but there's a 5mm port plugged on there, so kinda wish they just moved the port in there instead of just having a gun on a stick. Literal gun on a stick. There it goes in the 5mm hand. It's detailed but simple, I would describe Knight. Yellow polygonical accents throughout, and on his legs are flame decals on the black and white accent colors. Yeah, but they're all very polygonical and not much greebling. It's all smooth. Head sculpt certainly looking heroic on that ball-socketed head. Big black forehead, a silver faceplate with a yellow chin, and little yellow ears. And there's some good light piping in there. But yeah, it's kind of like a generic hero robot type face. He may not have any leg articulation due to it having to have a spring in both ways. His upper body is surprisingly very limber. Full ratchets on the shoulders. The upward shoulders are geared to each other. But he also has a secondary outward arm joint and an elbow bend at that good point. No bicep, but he has a wrist swivel? a actual wrist swivel, and a waist swivel. The kibble on the back obstructs it, but still, waist swivel? Yeah, for an auto-transforming toy, his upper body is very articulate. If only there were bicep swivels, this thing would have been perfect. And the legs. To get him back into Lamborghini mode, just clip those arms in and push in these. And what's really neat about this for an auto-transforming toy is that when you push these in, the feet automatically lock in. Yeah, automatic. You don't really need to press that in. Nice and secure. Rook, or Look.
Use the force, Luke.
Yeah, I think something went wrong in translation there. Rook doesn't have a very definitive real-world vehicle inspiration. Someone on a wiki says it's like a MG X Power SV. Anyway, looking at this very used, never reissued, and no, absolutely not a single $200 first-party listing on any Korean shopping site. It's a decently worn out police car, just very simple white painted on here, and these sirens. And I secured one that has not been scratched, white edges all on the sides. But still, it's still very beat up. Green headlights just like Night. Carbot symbol right there. On this, yeah, very blocky and square grille, flanked by these very curvaceous sides and the curvaceous back. Yo, those are ridiculously far back wheels, like, they're not covered on the back. At least there are some red rear lights and some spoiler way in front. And a back with red little arrows that don't line up with each other. Interesting. So yeah, fictitious police car. So Night is the only one of the trio not to have a specific activation button. The button here is very obviously the siren. Yeah, I think you would have to hit it a bit to activate this. Yeah, so there's like that much slab that's unlatching the legs and the arms and the legs. Yeah, you might have to slam it. And when that happens, yeah, the arms will unfurl along with the chest and the leg bits outward. And then manually slide forward the feet. And then take his gun. At least this one is much more secure than Knight's. But that's not going to stop a lot of kids from losing it. Yeah, you can also have a flat face transformation. So Rook looks baggy. Disproportionately baggy. Because those are very long legs and a very short torso on these very loose spring-loaded shins. Thankfully, the kibble is preventing that thing from doing a full split. But yeah, like, these are really disproportionate thigh to lower leg ratio. It would look better if these were actually the knees. The thighs are the same size as the torso. And on the torso, it's a very stubby torso. It is nicely detailed with red and gold and blue paint. But very stubby, with a very obvious port. It's like a male port instead of a female one. I think the hexagonal chest pecs do look unique, and also there are these extra turbine fans on the shoulders, with some red accents on the arms, but yeah, it's on the chest, so it looks odd if you try to make him do that. And his head has little clearance from the chest pecs. It can still turn, but it looks really sunken in there. The head sculpt is decent for a robot. It has ear fins way on the back, big cheeky sides with these gold cheeks that can easily rub against the chest pecs, red chin with the faceplate and these two bumps on each end, and a big red forehead, likely point of scrapage. And there's just enough block for some light piping. Sadly, Rook and Pawn do not share the same luxury of Knight's articulation. Just a slightly ball-socketed head and 3 clicks on each elbow. No shoulders or waist or wrist or anything. It is a unique design to have the elbow right at the wheel though. Yeah, inarticulate. To transform Officer McBaggy Pants into car mode, plug that weapon in if you still have it. Just click that all in and... Whoops, actually you should put the legs in first. Everything clicks in nicely and perfectly. Easy change. Pawn, or pound? Okay, I'm pretty sure they're meant to be named after chess pieces, but somehow the Taiwanese English really butchered the romanization with look and pound. What is a pound? Anyway, if you squint at it, this could resemble a Bugatti Veyron without a grille. Anyway, this is very curvaceous car with rigid windows, unlike Knight. Also, the only of the trio with transparent windows. Opaque and opaque. 2 petrol caps, silver painted. Nice spoiler on the back. Black sides. 5-spoke wheels. Used rusted rivets. The back has these blue rear lights and a red rear light here and obvious buttons. Very low clearance sports car thing. And I suppose these are the exhaust grills. No windshield wipers, but there are more ridges in here, so... A fairly realistic-ish concept car. So Pawn's activation buttons are right on the back. So you can just stand them up and press them down. So this chest piece is holding it all together. Yeah, so it locks into the clips on his legs. And when both of them are pressed, it slams into these 2 ridges here, which slightly untoggles the arms and those spring-loaded shoulders. And the only manual bit are these tiny little feet. Oh, and you should also click in those legs to make sure they don't flop in. I really cannot imagine why Pawn here was a shelf warmer a good 4 years until 2019. And that's coming from a team without any reissues. The design is pretty decent and decently proportioned, unlike with orange and accent colors of blue and yellow and some silver. And some very long industrial looking legs. Greebling throughout. Also, it looks like only this leg has an extra slot for whatever securing reason. Shoulders do give him a wider profile. There's some nice inner detailing in the legs, so very simple compared to other Carbots. It's there, and also these blue underpainted sides, which did not stop the kid from splattering some unidentifiable food gunk on here. Some tubes and pistons and interesting detail here. Also, the yellow stripe continues down his rather open-spaced arms. Head sculpt is very V-shaped, with also shares his all primary colors, the yellow, blue, and orange. A very silver faceplate with a V notch on the would-be nose. Somehow the head's design is so similar to Sky, I would imagine they're like a brother and sister. That's just some fan fiction physical resemblance talking. And that V block can get some light piping in there. And in the back is a hidden weapon storage, accessible in both modes, for a little boomerang with an obvious 5mm port. Yeah, just plug it in the hand like that. On his very limited 3-click joints on each arm and the head, exactly the same as Rook's. If any kid broke this central chest, the transformation into car mode will be completely screwed up, completely untransformable. So this one does have a 5mm port on top, so if you want to be a total goofus and put the boomerang on top, you can do that. And also specifically this way apparently, in that little ridge. So is there anything else that defines these three as a collective trio other than their shared one action, very simple transformation? Well, I guess they're all sports cars with spoilers. But apart from those two features, it's some who don't know any better might not see this as a trio. So I bet some kids could just have fun with just one of these. And apparently Knight is the best one. Yeah, I would say Knight is obviously the best one of the three because he has a lot of upper articulation. Did I mention he has wrists? And this would set the precedent for auto-transforming Carbots with very little articulation but very easy transformations for the literal 3-year-olds. And being sold at the exact same price point as the better articulated ones. Some folks might consider that a ripoff. Maybe some should argue it should be like about $10 lower than the bigger, better articulated ones. Well, I guess maybe the same joints, there's about a similar amount of joints in there, except most of the joints are in springs. But I'm not the one to argue about the designated retail prices. So unless you're living in Korea, you're not going to be getting them anywhere else. Or unless you're living in Taiwan, you're not going to get them new. Because as I said, these were never reissued. So why am I reviewing these very low appeal, somewhat hard to get in new condition now? Because there are brand new versions of the trio. So be sure to like and subscribe if you haven't to tune in for this review.